The ending of Arcane has a lot of people confused. Even I was confused when it first ended, but then I remembered I am a degenerate for anything runeterra, and after the second watch I was pretty sure I understood how Arcane, the runestones, Victor, Jace, Echo, all that worked, and so I watched another 12 times to make sure, and now I come to you with a video explaining it all. I'm going to talk through the ending of Arcane, why I think Jace and Victor are not dead, why Harold appeared in Season 1 and all 3 acts of Season 2, and who the real hero of Arcane is. Now let's get to the ending of Arcane and how everything connects all the way back to Season 1, and I think that's actually a great place to start. One of the first things we see in Arcane is Jace and his mother almost dying, and this purple looking figure giving him a rune stone with the acceleration rune written on it. Now we know after watching Arcane Season 2 that this is Victor. Look at his wrist, it looks like he has other runestones there. This might be his 8th attempt. But why do we see runeterra in his hand and then later we see the anomaly? What I think it is that we're seeing Jace's memory. And you know, memories as a child are kind of blurry, and we see this memory become more accurate as we continue through Arcane. Then in the end, we finally see that this was Victor and that Jace received the acceleration rune in one of many possibilities, many possible runes that he could have received. But the timeline that we're following, the timeline throughout Arcane, is the timeline where Jace receives the acceleration rune. That's extremely important because only in this timeline is runeterra saved. But why save Jace's life to begin with? Wouldn't letting him die kind of solve everything? That's gonna make more sense later.
Is that a wild rune?
I have no idea what that is.
Now let's start with Jace, Echo, and Heimerdinger coming in contact with the anomaly. Jace is spit out into the future, a future where we lose, basically any future where Jace doesn't have the acceleration rune. Meanwhile, Echo and Heimerdinger are spit out on an alternate timeline where Hextech never existed. Vi is dead and Powder was raised by Vander. A few things that were really cool about the Echo timeline: for one, when we start, all these images are flashing, we get a quick shot of this mask. I talked about Kahara Jin in my previous video, but something else that's pretty cool is that this mask looks very close, if not exactly, Kahara Jin's mask. Maybe it was foreshadowing that we see him in the end. Now Heimerdinger starts jamming and this song is amazing. Really did not expect Heimerdinger to have the voice of an angel. Who knew?
Go spin the wheel and see where it lands.
But there are so many characters we've seen in Piltover and Zahn on this bridge interacting. And something really cool that passes really quick is on this wheel you can see some of the professional League of Legends teams such as G2, FNC, Cloud9. They're on there. This guy getting a haircut, just for one. We only saw him once at the beginning of Arcane trying to take Huck for all he's worth. Here he's just getting a haircut and everyone's laughing and smiling. It's great. And just a quick note, I promise I'm not going to take us too far off track. I'm pretty sure these guys are from Bilgewater. Him and the girl that he's with. You can see he's got like the bones on him. He's got the skull bracelet. He's also trading Buhru coin in the beginning of Season 1. And there's a close-up shot if you look at the Jinx Breaks Everything event. Act 1, you can find some Buhru coin there and you can get a close-up shot of it. These are definitely Buhru coin. I mean, it's like Alawi. If you slapped her on a coin, this is what it looked like. I'm not going to get too far off track. Looks like in this timeline, these Bilgewater people still find their way to Piltover and Zahn. We see this Fish Vastaya restaurant, which seems to be a favorite of both Zahn and Piltover. And look, he's appeared in all 3 acts of Season 2. He even appears across timelines. Now, I don't want to say Anchor Being at the risk of connecting this to Marvel, who did a horrible job with the timeline stuff. It's okay to dip your toe, but don't go swimming in it. But if there is an Anchor Being, if there ever was an Anchor Being style thing in any of these timelines, Harold could be a candidate. Moving forward, Echo gets some leftover shards of the Hex Crystal explosion, and he presents them to Heimerdinger. Keep in mind, Echo needs to create the Z drive. Without it, we lose. And he needs Heimerdinger to help him. Initially, he is averse to the idea of tampering with the Arcane again and doesn't even believe it can be done. Echo convinces him, and what does Heimerdinger tell him?
Oh, blast nozzles. How could I forsake a brilliant lad in need? Again.
And then it changes to Jace in the future of our timeline should we lose. In order for Heimerdinger to help, he has to fail, at least in his eyes, Jace. Really, all of this is still consistent in every timeline, every possibility. This is all the same. The difference and what allows them to make the Z drive is right here. Echo literally mentions it.
How did you stumble upon that?
I was playing with inversions on Jace's acceleration rune.
It's the acceleration rune, and Echo says it. Without the acceleration rune, no Z drive. Echo and Heimerdinger stay in this timeline. Jace and the rest of runeterra gets evolved by Victor, and we end up right here. This possible future Jace is in now, and it's rough. First thing of note, this hammer is not working here. It's just a hunk of metal. Why? I don't know. I've been trying to understand why his hammer doesn't work here. Another thing we see is a person, hooded figure. We eventually know that this is Victor. He comes out of the fog and Jace asks him,
Did you bring me here?
and I think the answer is definitely yes. He also sends Echo and Heimerdinger to the alternate timeline. Like I said, only one thing is different in this timeline, and that's the rune that he gave Jace in the beginning, the acceleration rune. Everything else is always the same. Now Victor is leading him somewhere and he has control of these creatures. He scares Jace into the chasm. Everything needs to happen to get Jace to the right mindset, to the right place where future Victor can deliver the message to past Victor. And you see the hammer hit Jace's leg as he's falling, breaking it. And he finally hits rock bottom. Get it? Rock bottom, both figuratively and rock bottom. You got it. You got it. But Jace, being a beast, just snaps his leg back into place. Insane. This cracking of the leg literally makes my shoulders tense up every time. Listen to it. Listen to it. Just makes you tighten up. I do not like it. Let's listen to it again. Listen to it again. Yeah, see, it's not nice. It's not nice. Raise your volume. Raise your volume. I'm gonna play it again, guys. Ready? Ready? Ooh, I do not like that. Anyways, we see across the water Victor's already watching Jace. He can't just pop up. It needs to be at the right moment. And look how the metallic creatures Victor's controlling are just watching Jace, not attacking him, just watching. And we get this awesome shot of Mel burning away to become Victor, two very important people in Jace's life. And we get this quick shot showing all the notes he's been writing down on the wall. And look how haphazard they are compared to Jace's usual notes. I mean, this is the same guy who signs every page. He is dangerously close to madness here. And look what he's drawing at the center of it all, the acceleration rune. Finally, Jace is ready to get out of here, and he turns his hammer into this leg brace that we saw him wearing in Act 2, which honestly, the hammer was just kind of a hunk of metal at this point. I really don't know why it wasn't working. Maybe it's missing the Hextech gemstone, or I don't think that's it. Any ideas as to why it wasn't working here, let me know in the comments. But Jace eventually makes it to the top of the hex gate. And I think it's just that he wants to see what's out there. You know, you're stuck in the forest, you climb to the tallest tree or mountain to get a lay of the land. I think that's what's going on here. But finally, Jace comes face to face with himself from this timeline, a timeline where he fails. Here's the truth. Jace should not have lived. It's sad, I know, but he should not have lived, unfortunately. Him and his mother should have both died in that snowstorm. And Victor dies of his disease.
I have seen many students. It's a sad truth that those who shine brightest often burn fastest.
They are both anomalies. Victor, if he never goes back to save Jace, Hextech is never invented and Victor dies. So what's the point of all of this? Why do it? Just stop. Don't save Jace and nothing happens. No, the point of all of this is to save this timeline, the one that ends up here, the one where Victor becomes this powerful time manipulating being. Victor wants to save it, and the only way to save it is to save Jace, because Jace is the only one who can possibly deliver the message that his past self needs to change direction. And so Victor keeps going back and trying to give Jace different runes. There's no getting around Victor going back in this timeline, because that always happens in this timeline. Without that moment, this timeline doesn't exist. This version of Victor doesn't exist. This timeline only exists with that moment, but something Victor can change is the rune he gives Jace. And so he is trying different runes, and the one that works is the acceleration rune. Needless to say, Jace gets sent back and immediately just starts doing us all big favors, gets rid of Salo using his hammer like a fly swatter.
I can't let you leave.
I'm sorry you feel that way.
I'm sorry too.
Keep in mind, these people are fully controlled by Victor, and Jace sees this, and he cannot allow Victor's plan to continue because he knows where the world ends up. Pretty sure Salo is taking these to hopefully juice up Victor a little more, since we know that his power is finite. And we get this whole scene of Jace and Victor, and I guess his first solution was just to blow a hole through Victor's chest. I mean, works, there was no getting through to this guy. Unfortunately, Jace should have gotten rid of Singed as well, because he ends up bringing Victor back. But an important piece here is where Victor is talking through the people he has evolved.
You can inhabit your followers.
We are one. This is the glorious evolution.
Or it could have been. I sense my twilight approaching. An anomaly festers beneath the hex gates. I believe it has the capacity to complete the Doctor's transformation.
This is big and has a lot to do with what we see at the end. Don't think of everyone as separate, and look at how Sky is looking at Victor when he says,
I will deliver you to this anomaly if you agree to empower every soldier I bring you.
I will evolve all those willing.
This lands back to my theory that this isn't really Sky, it's his creation of a memory of Sky. It's like Victor, it's almost he created Sky with the characteristics he believed that she had. It's almost like he's talking to himself, and he made it mirror Sky before she evaporated. And with Victor's followers being raised up, I believe they now become the machines. You get a better shot of them becoming these machines later in the season. Now we swap to Jace in the Piltover Council Room, and look how they repaired the table after the explosion. Honestly, it looks better now in my opinion. Instead of just replacing the table, they filled it in with gold inlay. But when Mel walks in, look how the hammer reacts. I'll say this, I don't think it's reacting to Mel. I think it's trying to warn Jace or has this reaction whenever it comes near Victor, but it's clearly signaling to this machine which shows up during their conversation. And as it gets closer, Jace's visions get more intense until he blasts this hole through a pillar, probably where the machine was, but little bugger is quick. And you can even see the hammer reacting even more when the machine later holds it, further pointing that it's reacting to Victor, this machine, and not Mel. And look how pretty this machine looks compared to the future ones. Jace goes to swing his hammer and you see the acceleration rune fused again to his wrist. And the machine touches Jace's mind right here. Victor actually gets a vision here and we see this later. Victor ends up losing this fight, then back in the sump he tells Singed,
Doctor, you may begin the process.
The process kills his version of Sky, his mental version that he created. Basically, he's letting go of his old humanity.
Guess this is goodbye.
Thank you very much for your company in my solitude, Miss Young. I will miss our talks.
No. You won't.
Now remember the whole thing with Warwick. The beast dominates over Vander and Victor was supposed to be helping to save the man. This was back when he valued the human aspects of humanity. But after Jace blasts Victor and he's laying on the ground, Victor says,
The doctor was right. Humanity. Our emotions. Rage. Compassion. Two sides of the same coin. Inextricably bound. That which inspires us to our greatest good is also the cause of our greatest evil.
we see Vander's memories here not just fading but being burned away. And there's this moment where Warwick roars as these memories are being destroyed. And Victor does the same thing. This is because Victor's memories, just like Warwick's, his humanity is being burned away. Warwick, all that's left is the beast after this, and in Victor, all that's left is the machine. At least that's what's supposed to happen. It's just crazy that even after he knew exactly what Singed did to Warwick, he was seeing the memories, he saw the beast inside of Warwick, he pretty much told Singed to do the same thing to him, to make him more powerful, to make him this being that could do what he has to do in the end. And Victor reaching his final form, now watch, remember I just showed you, Victor already touched Jace's mind for a split second in the Piltover Council room. You think Victor didn't see anything, but he did. Right here you get a quick glimpse of Jace's future on his knees with the hammer.
We're meant to lose this fight.
This shot we have seen many times, and it scares Victor a bit. You can see a little doubt in his reaction, but only for a moment. Then he smiles. If this is the future, it's not a bad one in his eyes yet. Now there are so many nods in this scene that go back to when Solo was here.
I am pleased to see you.
Victor is still in there, but he is also everyone.
Jace, I'd feared I wouldn't have the chance to speak with you again.
There must be some part of you still in there.
I am more than I ever was.
Is Salo still in there? Where else would I be?
And now he speaks for everyone. He is not gone, he's just more.
Stop this insanity, Victor.
That is precisely my intention.
I can't let you leave. I'm sorry you feel that way.
And Victor explains his plan right here, why he's doing everything that he's doing. It's really to end cruelty and suffering in the world. And the way he foresees doing this is by eliminating choice altogether. And these choices that people make is how we forgive baser instincts, which he sees emotions as like baser instincts that people need to evolve beyond.
People deserve to choose their own fates.
Choice is false. It is how we clothe and forgive the baser instincts that spur us to division.
We can be of one mind. United.
Instead, we should all be united into one mind for the benefit of all. Victor's goal here, really, when you boil it down to just its basic what it is, remove free will and there will be no problems. Nobody will fight anymore, which he kind of isn't wrong. You'll be of one mind. It's Victor's mind, and he now just speaks for everyone. So that's his solution. But it's not like a dictatorship, right? He's not controlling everyone. It's that when you're all of one mind, is there ever any reason to take any action ever? Is there ever any reason to fight, to progress, to do anything? Really, no. Why would I make this video explaining my thoughts on the end of Arcane if we were just of the same mind? I wouldn't be making it. And that just can be compounded to literally anything that we do in life. And we see the result of that in this future timeline that Jace is in, and we hear Victor explain it again at the end. We'll get to that.
Your eyes won't lie. When your mind is open, Jace.
Your eyes won't lie when your mind is open. I think he's referencing, we can see them later, these gold people. I mean, they do kind of look peaceful. Their eyes look peaceful. They do look like they're at peace. And I think everyone is at peace in this future with Victor. It's not that they're sad. There's no war. There's no violence. It's just peaceful solitude. And looking at their eyes does seem pretty peaceful. Then you get this epic scene of Jace and Victor flying up. And I can't even begin to imagine what's going through Vi's mind here. We've been following the story all the way through, but as someone who has not been following this, Vi seeing him fly up with this random creature, I mean, I can't even begin to imagine what's going through her mind. Not that she can think for that long. She's fighting an evolved Warwick, but still. Victor uses that beam, that third arm, which is very reminiscent of his in-game version, and he launches them onto the roof.
Do you see? The sublime intersection of order and chaos.
This is an interesting line because he's already described the anomaly multiple times as chaos.
Exquisite chaos.
But what's he using this chaos to bring about? Order. So that's why he says the sublime intersection of order and chaos, because chaos is being used to create order. Everyone starts getting force evolved, probably pretty similar to forcing your Pokemon to evolve. You know, no one has a choice. It's just, this is what's going to happen, and it starts happening to everyone. But Echo is hidden under some rubble, so it doesn't get him. And look what's floating, Echo's sword bat. It's what he usually uses in game. We flash back up to Jace, and we see that he realizes that this is it. This is the position where he finds himself in the future. And in most cases, this is where it ends. And during this conversation between Jace and Victor, you can see that Jace is starting to turn gold, and he'll eventually become docile like everyone else around him. And what interrupts this? The boy who shattered time. And we see Echo do some amazing stuff here utilizing the Z Drive. And it seems like a lot of people don't know how the Z Drive works. It does not reverse damage to Echo. Look at Echo here. No nosebleed, face looks fine. He gets hit hard. And look, now you can see there's blood on the bottom of his lip. He's got some blood coming out of his nose. He uses the Z Drive. But look, the nosebleed is still there. There's still blood under his lip. The damage was still done. It just reverses his placement and rewinds time for everyone else. The only person aware that this rewind took place is Echo. But this time he dodges the arm. Now look how crazy this is. Echo lands on his board, then he gets hit and rewinds time, but this time he doesn't land on his board. He gets grabbed before he can land on it. This could mean that Victor has already caught on to his moves. We do know that Victor later in this timeline becomes pretty good with time manipulation. What could be happening here is that Victor, in just this short amount of time, is already catching on that Echo is somehow manipulating time. At least by 1 second, since that's all Echo's done so far. He still ends up getting caught later. Either Victor's getting really lucky or he's caught on to everything because he stops Echo from using the Z drive here until it's beyond 1 second, then it doesn't matter anymore. And at this point, reversing time by 1 second isn't going to do it anymore. Echo turns it way past 4 seconds. The red line here is the mark for 4 seconds. And if you remember from the alternate timeline, when he goes past 4 seconds, we see bad things happen to Heimerdinger. He pops like a balloon. Well, he goes past 4 seconds here, and we see this explosion at the 4 second mark. And this butterfly effect again with all those machines around him getting blown away. And Echo eventually pops out of all of this right around the time of that punch when he was closest to Victor. Remember, this time bomb thing is still set up well past 4 seconds, meaning bad things will happen around it. He pulls it again and throws it at Victor. And Victor comments thinking something like this shouldn't even be possible.
That device can't be.
And if you freeze here, you can see inside Victor what he looks like below this facade. And then if we go inside this spiritual area where Victor and Jace are, we see that same portion of his mask broken. And underneath that, we see the original Victor. Jace at this point has not been fully evolved like the golden people around him. And so Victor asks Jace why persist after everything he has done. And we finally see who Jace made that promise to that we heard over and over in Act 2. And the message being that he thought he could bring an end to the world's suffering, but
there is no prize to perfection, only an end to pursuit.
And in all the timelines, all the possibilities, only Jace could show him this. And Jace delivers Victor's message to Victor. This is all happening within milliseconds, and Victor tells Jace to leave, but Jace stays and pulls out the acceleration rune from his wrist. Why did Victor fuse it to his arm? Perhaps in other timelines where he doesn't do this, Jace ends up losing it. He needs to have it with him for this moment, and I think this is what allows Jace and Victor to survive here. And everyone who Victor evolved completely is also taken with them. We don't know where they go, but I don't think they die here. Keep in mind, Jace and Victor are both anomalies. Neither should exist. They should both be dead by now. But Jace, Victor, the anomaly, all the people that Victor evolved all get absorbed into the acceleration rune and it blips away. We don't know what happens to them or where they go, but I think future Victor made sure that Jace had this acceleration rune at this time so that they wouldn't die. Because Victor tells Jace you can leave. I think Victor could have solved this on his own. I don't think he would have survived, but I think he could have solved this anomaly and everything on its own. But with the acceleration rune, perhaps there's a chance that they survived. And that is the end of Arcane. In the next video, we're going to talk about Mel, Noxus, Embassa, the Birds of Arcane, Jericho Swain, and what I think comes next for the Runeterra Netflix series. I know a lot of people are upset with Victor that he's so different from his in-game version, but honestly I think this version is better. I get people feel like the lore is so different, but try to remember we are seeing moments in this world. There could have been other things happening that we didn't see. Obviously overseas time doesn't stop. There's whole stories going on in Demacia and Noxus and the Freljord, but even just in Piltover and Zaun. For example, Twitch and Janna never make an appearance. This doesn't mean that they're not around or doing things or did not exist. We just didn't see them in the limited perspective that we had as these events unfolded, starting and ending at the exact same times, and the show would probably look completely different if you just followed different characters that we didn't even see. And even for Noxus, just because we're going to Noxus next doesn't mean that the story continues exactly from this time. Perhaps we can go back to before any of these events happened, and then somewhere in season 2, or if they do a 3rd season, that's when Mel finally arrives after all this stuff has happened. After all, with the Crow, that would mean Jericho Swain already got his demon hand, but I'd like to see that play out in Arcane. Just something to keep in mind. I'll talk more about it in my What's Next for Arcane video. Shout out to Pauly G who joined the channel, but like this video if you liked it, leave comments down below. One of my favorite things is reading other people's perspectives. A lot of the things I miss and people point out to me, and that makes future videos better. If you really want to go above and beyond, sharing this video makes a big difference. Thanks for stopping by the Grove, and I will see you in the next one.